ไม่ได้ยิน yeahโอเคหลวงพ่อได้ยินไหมครับไม่ได้ยินเอาเดี๋ยวหลวงพ่อเปิดไมค์ยังครับหลวงพ่อis connecting to the audio connecting นะโอเคโอเคหลวงพ่อได้ยินแล้วนะครับนะ
ได้ยินแล้วครับ
ครับหลวงพ่อครับtoday the ท่านปาสกรครับหลวงพ่อ from the England give a Dhamma Talk เดี๋ยวนิมนต์หลวงพ่อว่านำไหว้พระรูปเดียวนะครับหลวงพ่อเดี๋ยวรูปอื่นๆก็ฟังไปครับ
อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภะคะวาพุทธังภะคะวันตังอะภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมมัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนะมามิครับมนต์
today first of all I have to thank ท่านปาสกรfrom England to accept the invitation and on behalf of the Council of the Thai Bhikhuss in U.S.A. Last week I already announced we have more than 100 center around the country and we have about 500 Buddhist monk and our president called the Pratep Puttivitet from Wat Puttawat, Houston, Texas, and Rat Tamavitet from Wat Puttanuson, San Francisco, พระวิเทศธรรมคุณวัดสุตตาวาส Riverside, California, and พระวิเทศสิทธิธรรมาภรณ์เจ้าวาดวัดธรรมยตาราม รัฐวอชิงตัน this is a white president and we try to do something to spread the Dhamma from the corona it take place for many months and we try to how to spread the Dhamma for the people. That's why we have this kind of program today. And today it is a great honor to have our president, Prate Putivitet, joining us, and he going to keep open speech today. Okay, thank you. นิมนต์หลวงพ่อ
ครับก็อนุโมทนาที่จะมาให้ธรรมะในวันนี้ I want to thank you for the person who come to speak in English for the Dhamma today. But on behalf of the Council of Thai Bhikkhus in U.S.A, I have to thank you for the who speak for all the people today. I think that is the time to beginning. Please start. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. อาจารย์สรายุทธนิมนต์
Most Venerable Prate Putivitet, Venerable Vitet Siddhi Thammaporn, Vitet Ratanaporn, all most venerable monks, and good afternoon, everyone. Today, it is my great privilege to introduce to you our speaker. He may be well known to many of you. His name is Venerable Phramaha BHATSAKORN PIYOBHASO. He was born in Ubon Ratchathani, Thailand, and has studied at universities in both Thailand and United Kingdom. At the present time, he is a candidate for the PhD degree at King's College, London. In addition, he holds the Pali Ninth degree, as well as a diploma in Abhidhamma from Abhidhamma Chotika College, Mahachulalongkorn Raj Vidyalai University. At this time, he holds several positions. Among them, he is the Secretary General of Thai Buddhist monks in the UK and Ireland. He is also the assistant to the abbot of Wat Mahathat in Bangkok. And he is a meditation master and teacher of Buddhism at the Buddhapatipa Temple in London. We are indeed fortunate today to be able to benefit from his vast experience in the Dhamma. Let us extend our warm welcome to Venerable Phramaha BHATSAKORN PIYOBHASO. Venerable Sir, would you kindly offer us your Dhamma Talk?
นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะเอกายะโนอายังภิกขเวมัคโคสัตตานังวิสุทธิยาโสกะปริเทวานังสมติกมายะทุกขโทมนัสสานังอัตถังขมายะยายัสสะอธิขมายะนิพพานัสสะสัจฉิกิริยายะทิทังจัตตารโรสติปัฏฐานาติ Respected the most venerable Prate Putivitet, the president of the Council of Thai Bhikkhus in the U.S.A, and respected Venerable Prate Vitet Thammaporn, and all venerable monks and dear lay devotees, both male and female. It is my pleasure to have a chance to share Dhamma with all of you. I'm very happy. As we have only about 1 hour, and my talk will be divided into 3 parts. So part 1, I just would like to give you the brief history of the Buddha Patipa temple. And then part 2, I'm going to focus on the topic. Then part 3, we may have some times for question and answer. So hopefully within 1 hour, we will be able to manage this tool. Right, first of all, I just also would like to say congratulations on having invited me to give a talk. I would like to say thank you to Thanajan Rit and who organized this talk online. So I'm going to start to share the screen now. It would be easier and if we see the screen at the same time, listen to a talk. So this is for the topic for my talk, mindfulness as mental antidote to suffering. As I said, I'm going to talk about the history of the Buddha Patipa temple first. So this is the site of the Buddha Patipa temple. Now we are located in London, in southwest of London. And back to 1964, when one master from Wat Ma That, Bangkok, was invited by the English Sangha Trust to run meditation class here in London. So on May 24th, he was traveling from Thailand to London, and his name was Most Venerable Raj Siddhimuni, and he might be known as Luang Por Chodok, and he was from Wat Ma That, section 5. Then together with Luang Por Chodok was Phramaha Tisathatto. Phramaha Vijit was a young monk who spoke very good English at that time. So he accompanied Luang Por Chodok as a translator or the interpreter. Here he took the photo in front of the Hampstead Buddhist Vihara on the 25th of May, 1964. So this is the old Buddha Patipa temple on 99 Christchurch Road. We had been there from 1966 until 1975. It's about 20 minutes from the present location. And on the 1st of August, 1966, His Late Majesty King Bhumibol, together with Queen Srikit, came to preside over the grand opening ceremony of the Buddha Patipa temple. So Buddha Patipa temple could be regarded as the Thai Buddhist temple outside Asian countries. After Wat Thai Puttaka in India, so in 1966, the Buddha Patipa temple was opened, and the opening ceremony was presided over by His Late Majesty King Bhumibol, together with Queen Srikit. Then until 1975, but before that, we were looking for the place. We had the project to build the main temple, but our own place in Richmond didn't have enough space for building the main temple in a Thai style. And then we eventually found the Barrowgill House on 14 Cullen Road in Wimbledon area. And we moved in on the 17th of November, 1975. So since 1975, we have been here in Wimbledon. And on the 1st of November, 1981, King Rama X, who was then the Crown Prince of Thailand, came to offer the Katina robes or the robe presenting to the Buddhist monks on the 1st of November, 1981. And now I want to show you the present picture. So this is the aerial picture And what you see is the monk's house where all the monks are living in, and so the bell tower. And from here, you can even see the Wimbledon tennis courts. Here's the main temple from the air. And this main temple was completed in 1982. A very well-known place for the local visitor, even for international tourists. I also want to show you the main temple from other angle. During summertime, and the main temple looks very beautiful. Right. Here we have the monks. At the moment, there are only 5. The abbot, who is going to be 95 years old in December, has gone back to Thailand. So at the moment, there are only 5 monks. Well, inside the main temple, we have a very important and well-known Buddha statue known as Luang Por Dam. And this Buddha statue is probably 700 to 900 years old, about 700 to 900 years old. It was erected in probably in Sukhothai period. Okay, that's the short introduction about the Buddha Pratibha temple. Now I'm going to begin my talk. I would like to begin with Dhammapada verse 182. Although everyone now is on lockdown, I mean most people are on lockdown, but we can make a Dhamma talk accessible for everyone. Although we can't go to the temple to listen to a Dhamma talk, and we can't get together more than 6 people, but online technology enables us to have this. So this stanza is from Dhammapada verse 182. Kit cho manusapati lapho, kit chang matjana chivitang, kit chang satamasavanang, kit cho puttha namupato di, which means that hard to gain is birth as human. Hard is the life of mortals. Hard is to get the opportunity of listening or hearing the teaching. Hard it is for that Buddha to appear. So this stanza reflects that although it is hard to have a chance to listen to the teaching, but many people still find a way to listen to a Dhamma talk. Right, so now you're gonna go to the next slide. Well, my topic is mindfulness as a mental antidote to suffering. And the reason why I want to talk about this topic, just to respond to the current situation. And well, as we know that many people suffer because of the COVID-19, because they lost their job, because they are broke. And in order to give more support or in order to encourage them, I just try to tell them how mindfulness works during this situation. I would like to begin with a short information or the short brief about the 4 Noble Truths. I think most Buddhists are familiar with these 4 Noble Truths. Dukkha, the Noble Truths of suffering, or dukkha. And then samudaya, the Noble Truths of the origin of dukkha. Nirodha, the Noble Truths of the cessation of dukkha. Last but not least, the Noble Truths of the way to the cessation of dukkha. I prefer to leave the word dukkha not translated, because the word dukkha does not only mean suffering. It is more than suffering. We're going to talk about that later. So these four noble truths are very familiar for all Buddhists, no matter what school you follow. Even Theravada, Mahayana, or Vajrayana, they all know about the Four Noble Truths, or they all teach about the Four Noble Truths. Now, let's say the definition of dukkha. The term dukkha is the combination of two words, tu and kama. Tu is prefix, means bad, difficult, or hard. And then kama is a root, or dadu in grammar rule, is used in the sense of to bear or to endure. So in conclusion, the word dukkha can mean the state that is hard or difficult to bear. This is what we call dukkha. And now let's see how many types of dukkha. Well, if we remember the translation of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first sermon given by the Buddha to the group of 5 monks at the deer park, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Buddha described different types of dukkha, but there are at least, as you see here, there are at least 10. Birth is dukkha, aging is dukkha, illness is dukkha, death, sorrow, lamentation, physical pain, unhappiness, distress, union with what is disliked, separation from what is liked, and not to get one's wants. So all of these kinds of dukkha were described by the Buddha in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Some may argue that how death is regarded as dukkha, how that brings us dukkha. From my personal understanding, before we die, we suffer. But after we die, suffering is no longer there. But it may cause another kind of suffering. For example, when our beloved people die, it brings sorrow, grief, and sadness, lamentation, even distress or bereavement. To me, that itself is not a kind of suffering, because when you die, you no longer suffer. But that can be the cause of our suffering, even or after. Right now, in other places, the Buddha even described 10 kinds of dukkha. What are they? Sappāva dukkha, natural dukkha, like a birth, aging, illness, and death, like I have said before. And then pakinnaka dukkha, temporary dukkha, sorrow, lamentation, physical pain, unhappiness, and distress. We won't feel sad all the time. We won't have grief and sorrow all the time. We will have grief or sorrow only when we don't get what we want, or only when we lost someone who is beloved for us. So this kind is what we call pakinnaka dukkha, or a temporary dukkha. And then nibbata dukkha, the regular dukkha, like a coldness, like a heat, like a hunger, like a thirst, and defecation. Now here in London, in the UK, and we are in summertime. During summertime, someday the weather can be a bit cold, but most of the time the weather is very nice. As I know that in the state, during winter time is quite hard for many people who live in some part of the state, but here in the UK, and the weather is not that cold. So these are regarded as regular dukkha, or the dukkha just comes and goes. They won't stay for long. Every day we are hungry, and then we eat, and hunger is gone. When we don't drink water, we feel thirsty after drinking, and then the thirst is gone. Then the fourth kind of dukkha, PIYOBHASO, the dukkha that is caused by ill health. Yes, of course, sometimes we feel we fall ill, or we are unwell, we are sick. And then number 5, santapa dukkha. Whenever we are overwhelmed, or when we are greedy, or when we are lustful, from the Buddhist point of view, that causes dukkha as well. When we hate someone, when we don't like someone, we can look at our own mind that we are unhappy. So when we are unhappy, we create suffering within our own heart. And also when we are deluded, we also feel suffering. And now, number 6, vipaga dukkha. The dukkha that is caused by the consequence of our action, or karma. When we pay for what we have done, whether we know it or not. So we call it the consequence of karma, or the vipaga dhamma. And some people suffer because of their vipaga dhamma, or the consequence of their action. And then viparinama dukkha, that dukkha that is caused by worldly conditions. Yeah, many by worldly conditions, like gain, loss, recognition, disregard, praise, blame, pleasure, and pain. So all of these are called worldly conditions because they are in the world, and they're still in the world. And we sometimes get something and then we're going to lose it one day. We sometimes are recognized by the public, by the people, but one day we may be disregarded. So not everyone be praises. Sometimes we may get blamed. And happiness, unhappiness, pleasure, or pain are changing all the time. So all of these are called loga dhamma, or worldly conditions. So whenever we suffer because of these loga dhamma, we call it viparinama dukkha. Yeah, viparinama means now you are happy, and then tomorrow you may be unhappy. Today you are very well known. Maybe tomorrow you may have some scandal or whatever. So viparinama dukkha. And then this one, ahara pariyeta dukkha. That dukkha caused by ways of earning a living. To make a living is not easy. Many people have to work hard in order to support the family, in order to earn the money. Some even need to work day and night. So how to earn money, how to earn a living is not easy, yeah, especially for the lay people. And then vivata mulaga dukkha. That dukkha that is caused by quarrel, dispute, fighting, argument. Yeah, I feel sorry for what happened in the state at the moment. Well, to me, it's right to be angry with the injustice, but it's not right to violate the law. It's not right to loot the shop. It's not right. And because you go too far, when we say something injustice, it's normal as a human being to be angry, but we choose not use our anger to cause other problem. So vivata mulaga dukkha is one of the dukkha in Buddhism. And last but not least, dukkha khanda. Dukkha khanda means whenever we attach or we cling onto the five aggregates, then it brings us dukkha, or suffering. So all of these kind of dukkhas were described by the Buddha just to look at different angles. Now, I think everyone knows this. Eguna visati ma vassa ko vitoro ko tu ko loke. Yeah, I try to translate in Pali language. And it means COVID-19 is dukkha in the world, similar to ina danang dukkhang loke, being in debt is dukkha or suffering in the world. Because of COVID-19, we are not allowed to travel, we have to stay at home, we have to cancel the annual meeting, the people can't go to the temple, many people have to lose their job. So COVID-19, of course, causes suffering, but we can think about it in the positive way. Well, sometimes dukkha or suffering can be classified into two: physical dukkha, kayika dukkha, and mental dukkha. In brief, the 5 bundles of grasping for are dukkha. The 5 aggregates themselves are dukkha, but the person we create dukkha by attaching them or clinging on them. So this is the meaning of this. However, we choose not be pessimistic. In Buddhism, the Buddha even talk about the happiness for the lay life, for the life of householder, and we call it kihi-sukha. And there are 4 in number: ati-sukha, happiness of having wealth, with ease, righteously acquired. When we have money in a bank account, we are happy. Or when we have the house and land, we are happy. We call it ati-sukha. And then bhokha-sukha, happiness of spending well. We are happy when we go shopping, when we buy something we want, and when we spend money on something that we want, we like. So the lay people are happy. We call it the kihi-sukha. And then anana-sukha, happiness of debtlessness, which means if you are free from debt, you don't need to worry about someone who come and ask you to pay the money back because you are not in debt. And then anavacca-sukha, happiness of blamelessness, which means that if you done nothing wrong, you don't need to worry about that. You're happy. You can go everywhere without worry because you have done anything wrong. So of these 4, happiness or blamelessness is the most valuable. This is from the Buddhist point of view. And the Buddha did not only talk about dukkha or suffering, he also talked about the happiness, especially for lay people. This is the Dhamma summaries from Rattapala Sutta. So Rattapala was a son of a merchant. After listening to the sermon given by the Buddha, he decided to become a bhikkhu or a monk. But because his parents had only one son, his parents did not allow him to be ordained as a monk. He even stayed for a few days, even for 7 days, that if he wasn't allowed to become a monk, he would better go to die. He eventually was allowed by his parents to become a monk. And on one occasion, he went to visit his hometown, and then he was asked by the king Gaurapaya, and why you decided to become a monk? You are still young. I normally see those who decided to renounce the world because they are broke, because they have no family. But you have everything. Your family is very rich. But why you decided to become a monk? And then Rattapala replied to the king Gaurapaya by saying, the reason why I decided to renounce the world because the world is sweeping away by old age. It does not endure. The world is without shelter, without protector. No one will be able to protect our world. The world is without ownership. One has to pass on and leave everything behind. Although my family is very rich, but we can't take any penny, we can't take any money with us after we die. And last but not least, this world is insufficient, which means that we are not able to feed our craving all the time. Eventually, because of this craving, we will go round and round in the cycle of birth and death. So these are the 4 Dhamma summary or Thammutte in Pali language. So this is how Buddhism looks at life or the world. I also want to talk about the 3 kinds of person in this world, as we see, and one who has, one who is totally blind, and one who has only one good eye, and then one whose both eyes are good. So this was spoken by the Buddha in Anta Sutta. The first person, the person who is totally blind, refer to those who doesn't know the Dhamma, who doesn't know how to earn a living. At the same time, he doesn't know how to apply Dhamma in his daily life. And the second person, one who has only one good eye, refers to a person who may know how to run business, and he may be very successful in his life, but whenever he has problem, he doesn't know how to solve his problem, because he only knows how to earn the living, but he doesn't know how to solve his life problem. And the last person, one whose both eyes are good, which means that this person knows how to earn a living, how to learn a life, and at the same time, he knows how to apply Dhamma in his daily life. So these 3 kinds of people can be found in our society even today. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about the people in our society today, and the 3 kinds of Dhamma learner. And one who learns the Dhamma, but it's not necessary that that person will know the contents of Dhamma. One who knows the contents of Dhamma, but it's not necessary that that person will possess the principle of Dhamma. One who possesses the principle of Dhamma, but they may not know how to apply the Dhamma, or they even don't know how to choose the right Dhamma, the right teaching for themselves. And there are many kinds of people in this world, and some who come to learn the Dhamma, but they don't know what they are learning about. Some even knows Dhamma very well, but they don't have the Dhamma, they don't possess the Dhamma. So those who know the Dhamma very well may like to look down on the people. And last one, those who possess the principle of the Dhamma, but the problem is that don't know how to apply the Dhamma. For example, the 4 sublime abiding, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha. We need to use these 4 sublime abiding or Brahma Vihara at the right time, and the right person. Metta is for everyone, all beings. Karuna is for those who suffer. Mudita is for those who are successful or happy. And Upekkha or equanimity can be used whenever something we can't do. For example, it is too far, it is too much for us, we need to let go or accept it. Right. So before I go on to my topic, I would like to share the story. So as I remember, and this story was told by Goenga. I will tell you the title of story later. Once there was a young professor who has a long tail of his name, who has a long tails after his name, because, for example, he had many degrees, many PhD degree, but he had very little experience of life. In order to learn more about the world, he decided to hide the chip. And in that chip, there was the old illiterate seller. So this old seller had never been to school, so he was illiterate. He didn't know how to read or how to write, but has been working in a chip for many years. Every evening, the young professor and the old seller like to have the conversation. At the end of the conversation, for the first night, the young professor asked, "Old man, have you studied?" So the young professor asked the old seller, "Old man, have you studied geology?" Yes, some of you may know what geology is, but because the old seller had never been to school, or he didn't study anything, he didn't know how to read or write, so he didn't know what geology is. He asked the professor, "Oh, what is that, sir?" "Well, geology is the scientific study of Earth. We live on Earth, but you don't know about the Earth. So you have vested a quarter of your life. We live on Earth, but you don't study geology, the scientific study of Earth. That means you have vested a quarter of your life." And then for the second night, after the conversation, the young professor asked the old seller again, but this time the question is different. "Old man, have you studied oceanography?" "Oh, what is that, sir?" "Well, oceanography is the scientific study of the sea. You work in the ship, but you know nothing about the sea. It is very dangerous. So now you have vested half your life." Every time when the young professor said, "You have vested a quarter of your life, half your life," the old seller went away with the long face. Now came the third night. After they had a long conversation, before the old seller left the cabin of the young professor. This time, the young professor asked the old seller that, "Old man, have you studied meteorology?" "Meteorology. What is that, sir?" "I haven't heard this word before in my life." "Oh, it is the scientific study of the weather. You work in the ship, you sell the ship. So it's very dangerous if you don't know about the weather. You don't know and how the weather will be today. So I have to say that you have vested 3/4 of your life." The old seller went away with long face. He thought it must be true that I have vested a quarter of my life because I haven't studied geology. It must be true that I have wasted half my life because I haven't studied oceanography. And now it must be true that I have vested 3/4 of my life because I haven't studied meteorology. So he was very unhappy. However, until one night, the old seller came running to the cabin of the young professor and crying, "Professor, sir, have you studied swimology?" So the young professor had never heard this word before. You can't even find this word in the dictionary. So none of the English dictionary have this term, swimology. The young professor was stunned and amazed because he didn't know what the old seller tried to say. "Sorry, what do you mean by saying swimology?" The old seller said, do you know how to swim? "Yeah, you know how to swim?" The young professor said, "Well, I don't know how to swim. I never jumped into the swimming pool." Oh, I'm so sorry to say that you have wasted all your life. You know why? You know why? Our ship has struck a rock and now it's sinking. Those who can swim may be able to reach the nearby shore. Those who can't will surely drown. So I must say that you have wasted all your life. Well, what I'm trying to say here is that I know we know how to live, how to earn a living very well, but in some way, we need the food for thought. So Dhamma is like a food for thought. So we need this food to nourish our mind. We need food to sustain the body. At the same time, we need food to nourish our mind. And now let's come to the point that I will talk about tonight. So it is 1:45 now. I go quickly. How mindfulness becomes mental antidote to suffering. Well, now the word mindfulness is very popular, even in school here in England. Many school children come to learn meditation at the temple. And because Buddhism is one subject in their curriculum. And we have RE, or religious education. So all the children here in the UK are required to study all religion, not only Buddhism. Again, I would like to bring this up. Eka yano yang bhikkhave mako satanang visuddhiya soka pridevanang samatikamaya tukhatumanasanang atangkamaya ya yasa atikamaya nippanasa sachigriyaya yatitang jataru satipatana. Yeah, sorry, I have to read a bit quick. Now let's see the translation. It can be translated in English as Bhikhuss. This is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and distress, for attainment of the right method. Last but not least, for the realization of unbinding or nibbana. So this is spoken by the Buddha in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the discourse on mindfulness. So my talk will be based on this word of the Buddha. And in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, as you might know, that there are 4 foundations of mindfulness: the mindfulness of body, the mindfulness of feeling, and mindfulness of mind, and mindfulness of mind object. So most meditation practitioners are familiar with these 4 foundations: body, to observe the body by being aware of the movement of body, even the breathing. And then feeling, when you observe your feeling, now you're happy, now you're unhappy, now you have pleasant or unpleasant feeling. And the mindfulness of mind, sometimes the mind is with lust, sometimes the mind is without lust, sometimes the mind is with distraction, without distraction, etc. And then when we look at the mind object, you may choose to look at the 5 hindrances, like sensual desire, ill thought, drowsiness, sleepiness, distraction, agitation, or doubt. I don't want to focus on that because that's a kind of practice, and I mean systematic practice, but I want to focus on how to apply mindfulness in our daily life. You can do walking meditation, or you can do sitting meditation like this, but most of the time, we live our normal life. We don't have time for sitting for an hour, or we can't walk slowly all the time. We just do things normally in our life. So according to the recent research, you might have heard this before. The mindfulness changes how the brains work. If you look on your right-hand side, you can see different parts of our brain. And frontal cortex is merely dealing with complex behavior and emotional control. And they have this test and discover that, and those who practice mindfulness regularly, so this part of their brain will be more active. And then for the second part of the brain, known amygdala, which is dealing with emotional responses, for example, fear, anxiety, and aggression. So this part of the brain will be less active, which means that after mindfulness practice regularly, and then the person will have less aggression, we have less anxiety, or we have less fear. And last one, hippocampus, which is dealing with learning and memory. So this part of the brain will be more active. So this is the result of the research, I believe, from the U.S.A. And this research is from the U.S.A. So this may be the reason why that now mindfulness practice is very, very popular in the Western country. Right, now let's come to the point. How to apply mindfulness in our daily life. From the time we wake up in the morning, we can try to be mindful. When we do watching, when we take a shower, we can try to be mindful. And also when we are eating or drinking, we can try to be mindful. When you are driving, when you are traveling to your workplace, you can be mindful. When you're speaking, even when you are thinking, especially when there are some kind of emotions like anger, whenever we are angry, we can be mindful of our anger by observing it. Whenever we are angry, it's better to look at our own emotion rather than the person who causes anger. Because if you look at your own anger, you can see that the anger will slowly dies down. And then, in our daily life, whenever we move or whenever we stretch, we can try to be mindful. And also the time when we go to sleep, we can try to be mindful. So mindfulness can be practiced even in our daily life, but don't try to be too serious. From the time you wake up, try to be mindful of your thought, try to be mindful of your movement. And if you remember, just leave it, just forget it. When we practice regularly, so this mindfulness will come up automatically. We don't need to think about it, it just comes up automatically. I also would like to share a story of the monk. Yes, in fact, this is the result of mindfulness practice. All of the Buddha teachings aims to let go or voidness or sunyata. I want to share you the story of a young monk and who was newly ordained. And this young monk went for alms in the crowd community where he lived. While walking in a very peaceful manner through the community, suddenly a middle-aged man in suit and tie with sunglasses approached him and pointed his finger at him and insulted him with very rude words. The monks were shocked and hurriedly walked away. Even though he could get away from the man, the abusing word was still ringing in his head. Having arrived at his monastery, he kept thinking about the event, that he was abused by an unknown man in public. He extremely angry, and the picture in his mind of that man was very clear to him. He thought to himself that I'm a monk. As far as I can remember, I have never done anything wrong. So he kept thinking, I'm not wrong, I'm not wrong. Why did that man insult me? The more he thought about that man, the more he thought about that man, the more he felt hurt. It was on Friday that he was abused, and he was still felt angry come Monday. On Monday morning, the monk went for alms once again in the community. He tried to seek out that man with the intention of asking him for an explanation of his abusive behavior a few days ago. Even though he looked everywhere, he couldn't find the man. He then decided to return to the monastery after collecting enough food. On his way back to the monastery, unexpectedly, the young monk glanced at a certain man in suit with tie and sunglasses. He exclaimed in his mind, "Oh, that was the man who abused me last Friday." As it appears to him, the man was unconscious, asleep on the ground beside a shrine. Next to him, there was an empty bottle of liquor. When the young monk tried to approach him, the man slowly woke up. Once he saw the young monk, he blurted out, "Oh, Your Majesty, you have now come back to reclaim your throne, haven't you?" The man then paid homage to the monk like minister do to a king. So this story, I believe, was told by Luang Por Puttathar many years ago, and then I retold in English I normally use it for my talk. Well, the reason why I brought this story, because I would like to say that nothing can be attached to or clung on to, because in origin, everything is empty. It doesn't have any essence that should be attached to or clung on to. We can't say, this is mine, because at the end, we're going to leave everything behind. And mindfulness practice will help us to let go of our eagerness, to let go of our attachment. This, I believe, is from the Visuddhimagga. From the Buddhist point of view, there is suffering, but no one suffers. Yeah, there is suffering, but no one suffers. And some may be a bit confused. And then who suffers? Well, when we practice until it becomes no one, and then there won't be any person who will suffer. And this is the quotation from one sutta. And it's only suffering that comes to be, suffering that stands and falls away. Nothing but suffering comes to be. Nothing but suffering ceases. Yeah, I need to go quickly now because we only have about maybe 10 minutes. Sorry, 5 minutes. Well, when we look at the body and mind, we need to understand that mind is the boss. The body is like the servant. Mind and body are dependent, but they're not the same. Mindfulness practice enables a person to separate the mind from body. When we attain the first jhana, we will be able to distinguish between the body and the mind. Nama-rupa-paricaya-kayana. And then mindfulness practice will enable a person to distinguish between the sufferer and suffering. Whenever we practice until we reach that point, we can distinguish between this is the suffering, this is the person, this is the mind. So mind and suffering are not the same thing. So at that point, although we can't avoid from physical suffering or physical pain, but at least we are able to reduce the degree of mental suffering. So we're going to go quickly. Now let me share with you the advantages of regular mindfulness practice. When we practice mindfulness regularly, we will be able to improve physical and mental health. And we will be cheerful and happy every day. We will be able to reduce worries, anxiety, and stress. Because we are mindful, we tend to make less mistakes. Normally, in our life, we like to do things automatically without mindfulness, and sometimes, and we would like to get something in the room, but when we are there, we don't know what we are doing there. So being mindful will be very helpful. So if you are mindful, most of the time, you will make less mistakes. And mindfulness practice will improve one's capability to work properly and successfully. When we practice mindfulness regularly, when something happens, you won't be frightened or you won't be scared for something unrealistic. And mindfulness also helps us to increase confidence, increase encouragement on doing good and right thing. And last but not least, mindfulness will enable us to have less attachment, which will lead to the liberation of clinging as I or mine. So this may help for those who would like to reflect on daily basis, Abhina Pajawekana. So I normally recite this every day, twice a day, morning and evening, and Abhina Pajawekana Dhamma. And this may help us to look at how the life is. So we won't be too worried too much about what's going to happen, because this is the way things are, not the way we want them to be. Oh, sorry. Thank you, and may the Triple Gems bless you all. So we're going to stop sharing the screen now. I will open up for question, and if any one of you has question.
Thank you, Ajahn, for a very insightful talk. I think first of all, on behalf of everyone, we would like to express sincere thanks, especially during the time in London now. I see the clock behind of you. I was mindful of the time. It's actually almost 1 a.m. So,
I'm okay, because before I start the talk, I just took a nap.
Yeah. So, Ajahn, the question is, if you look at year 2020, everyone actually wanted to welcome it to be a very special year. And you mentioned about 3 kinds of people with eyes. If you look at 2020, a lot of people say that if you have a vision 2020, that means you have a perfect vision. But unfortunately, we didn't start year 2020 to be a perfect year. So we have a question here from Brother Chia, and he mentioned that I think it is important for us to walk the Buddha and Dhamma path. So his question is that, what is the best way to strengthen our saddha in relation to those who are totally blind or half blind or not blind?
Well, to me, I think in order to increase the confidence of saddha, we need to be a good example. Well, if you know Luang Por Chah, who had many Western disciples, although he didn't speak English at all, and one day, a certain farmer asked him, how come, Luang Por, you taught the Western monk because you didn't speak their language? And Luang Por said, well, do you have to speak the water buffalo language so that you can use water buffalo? And to me, in order to increase saddha, we need to be a good example. When you can prove by yourself, for example, if you can prove that mindfulness works very well, then you can show to the people, you can share your experience with them. You can show them that now you are a happier person. So to me, by being a good example, will help increase the saddha or confidence for those who are totally blind. But in some case, if it is too much for us, or if we can't do anything with them, then we need to let them go. You know, even the Buddha can't help. We need to let them go. Like a monk Devadatta, although the Buddha tried to help Devadatta, but because he has a wrong view, because a strong wrong view, the Buddha couldn't help him. For some people, we have to let them go. So let them go on their way, although we try our best in order to help them. But if they did not want to change, if they don't want to improve themselves, and then we need to let them go on their own way.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you very much, Ajahn, for the sharing. In fact, that's really give me a very good directions, because walking the path all the years, I mean, for so long, I actually experienced this. You give me a very good answer. You use the words blind, but for us, we use the word dust. Those people with little dust or a lot of dust in their eyes. So it looks like a bit cruel if they are close to you, that they're still not opening up. You know, they still don't see the Dharma. They still like to live the way that they're living now. So sometimes it's quite cruel to me. I have a feeling like I don't dare to let them go, just ignore them, you know. But
wait for the right time. Maybe it's not right yet.
Yeah. The ripening is still not there, so sometimes I will follow your advice. You really have to let go, because our human life is so short.
Yeah. Well, if you don't let go, and then you make yourself suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You end up with making yourself suffer, and that's it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Pass it back to you for closing remarks.
Okay. Okay. Any another question? Yeah. Okay. And one other question. Yeah. Just a minute.
On the chat.
Yeah.
You want to ask? Because I didn't see your. I cannot see it.
Anyone? Okay. You pardon? You can ask directly.
Okay, I'll ask Ajahn, I have a question. As a lay people, is the livelihood upgrading considered a craving that can lead to dukkha?
So we can't deny that when we work hard, when we want to be rich, we can't deny that. But from the Buddhist point of view, that is the rightest thing. So as long as your craving doesn't bring harm to yourself, to other people, that is still acceptable. As long as it is still based on morality or right livelihood. You work hard, as a result of your working hard, you have earned a lot of money. That is the right thing. But of course, it is inevitable to experience suffering. You have to stay late at night. But to me, it's worth. It's worth. But we need to find time to look after ourselves. It's not right to just spend most of your time working hard, and at the end, you just use that money to look after yourself in the hospital. To me, I don't think that is right. So it's better to find some time to relax, like give yourself holiday. Don't work too hard, because if you work too hard, in fact, you harm yourself. So money is not everything, but it's necessary. Money can make you happy, but at the same time, money can make you suffer. So we need to follow the middle way, and middle way or middle path.
Anyone have any question? Yes.
Yeah, I think he needs to unmute himself.
Okay.
I got it. Yeah. Thank you, Ajahn. I'm calling or watching and joining this program from Washington D.C. area. I live in Virginia, and I've been involved in Buddha Dhamma for many years in United States. By listening to your Dhamma talk, it's so refreshing. If I don't see your face and your accent is so beautifully Englishman, English British accent. It's so wonderful, and the meaning behind it is such a wonderful and it's good quality. But my question is not about the Buddhism per se. It's about the Buddhist culture in general. In Washington D.C. area or in United States, I can say that without any reservation, that this is purely subjective of my part. There are two groups of Buddhist practice in United States. My question is that, is these two groups, which is I will explain a little bit later, apply or equate to the Buddhist group in England? What I'm saying this is one group of Buddhists is just like you and I, all Buddhists that were born in Thailand or Burma, Laos, Cambodia. We have been introduced to Buddhism by our grandparents, parents, teacher, community, because we were born in Buddhist society, Buddhist culture. So we know how to respect the monks. We know the importance of how to take good care of the monks. We know the importance or the significance of the community that need to have Buddhist temple. So we practice Buddhism, also study Buddhism, and also taking care of the temples, the monastic community, also take care of the monks, the welfare and well-being of the monks. Because without the monks, like you, or most venerables out there that translate the Pali and then teach us in the common language, common term that we layperson can understood correctly. The other group is the Westerner, I call them new Buddhist. They recognize that they themselves, I shouldn't use they because that will separate group of Buddhism. It's the new Buddhists study Buddhism, understood the value of the teaching of Buddha. And then they just jump into the practice. They study, they conduct themselves as a Buddhist, but they lack of the Buddhist culture because they don't know how to approach the Buddhist monks. They don't know the culture, how to handle themselves within the Buddhist community, I mean, the other group of Buddhist community. So they did not recognize the temple need to be taken care of, the monks, we need, the layperson need to taking care of the monks, and that type of another group of Buddhists. So the other question is, how do we create or build up the sattva from the new Buddhists and try to show them and make them a little bit more understand that take care of the temple, take care of the monks, and take care of the whole Buddhist community is equally important. Thank you for your explanation, and maybe you can give your thought.
Yes, thank you for your question. So we have many groups here in the UK as well. They don't come to the temple. They have their own group. They have their own way. They have their own teaching. They have their own books. So we have that something like that here in the UK. Well, to me, if what they teach is not true, it won't last long, because Buddhism focuses on the truth, Satya Dhamma, or the truth. And if anyone who follow their teachings and then they won't receive the result of that practice. And then they will go away, they will walk away. And to your second question, how to increase confidence among our young generation. Well, here in England, at the Buddha Patipat Temple, we have the Buddhism Day School. It mainly depends on the parents, because most of the time, our children stay with the parents. They just come to learn at the temple maybe once a week, but parents play a very important role. So we need to show them where we come from and what is the significance of our background. Many young children don't like to speak Thai because they said, oh, when I speak Thai, I feel a bit old, I feel shy. But if we can encourage them, it will be better if you can speak many languages. When you go back to visit your, when you go back to Thailand to see our family, you will be able to communicate with our relatives. So you can go everywhere. So parents will be very important to encourage their children when they come to the temple, and then maybe they can learn how to do chanting, how to make a prostration from the Buddhist monk. So we need to pay attention to our young generation. For our generation, of course, we will live forever. So no one will live forever. So in order to keep our working running, we need to pass this legacy to our young generation, because this young generation will keep supporting our community. Without the support from the young generation, I think in the future, there will be no more Buddhist temple. But to me, we also need to encourage the local people, like the English people or the American people, and then show them how they get from what the values of Buddhism, and then what they can learn from Buddhism and how Buddhism can help them. Well, here in the UK, although the numbers of Buddhists are not many, but there are many who like Buddhist teaching. There are many British people who come to the temple. They even don't say, oh, I'm a Buddhist, but I like Buddhist teaching. I like to meditate, but I don't call myself a Buddhist. But they like to support. To me, that is good enough.
Okay, Ajahn, before I contact you, I saw that you have the one program. You said you're meeting online with Ajahn Amaro. You can explain about maybe a few minutes, maybe Ajahn.
Please. I can show you another screen, because
okay.
Yeah, hold on. I need to look for the screen that I... Yeah, probably this one. Well, I think you might have seen this picture.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can't remember what day, but maybe last week, I have them Zoom meeting with Ajahn Amaro and also the Sri Lankan Pante, and his name is Sila Vimala. And this is the president of the Buddhist Society, Dr. Desmond Bidduff. This is the Queen Elizabeth II. Well, and many people in Thailand use these pictures to mislead the people, and they thought that Ajahn Amaro was invited by the royal families to conduct teaching inside the palace. But he said, no, I didn't. No one approached me. I haven't been approached by anyone to give any teaching inside the palace. And but this picture was taken many years ago, I believe in 2004, when we had tsunami, and Prince Charles came to the Sri Lankan temple in Chisek, not far from the Buddha Patipa. So this one too was used to mislead the people. I now just want to show you quickly the whole picture of the event when Ajahn Amaro was invited to, not Buckingham Palace, but Lambeth Palace. Lambeth Palace is the official residence of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and who is like the leader of the Anglican Church. He's like a Sankarat in Thai, but this one already resigned. So when we look at this picture, we can say that not only Ajahn Amaro or the Sri Lankan monk, and we also have the Archbishop of Canterbury. And Bhante Silavimara brought the small silver pagoda or stupa just to present this to the Queen, that this is the object of veneration for Buddhists. But this pagoda was not given to the Queen. It's just for presentation.
Yeah.
And then not only Buddhist monks, there are other leaders from other religion, like from Hinduism, from Jewish community, from Jainism. Yeah, I know one of them, Jain representative in person. I know one of them. And then here we can say that there are many other religious leaders, not only the Buddhist monks.
Oh.
So Ajahn Amaro was not there to conduct any teaching. He just went there to participate in the Jubilee, Diamond Jubilee. Yeah, Diamond Jubilee, when the Queen was on the crown for 60 years.
Okay. Mm.
So this is the latest census. And the numbers of Buddhists, as you see here, about 200,000, 248,000. And now it could be 250,000 number of Buddhists.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn. Maybe we have another question, a short question, okay?
Yeah. Ajahn, I think the question from one of the audience is that naturally everybody wants to keep healthy. So physical healthiness, but one of the biggest problem in our society today is actually mental health. And depression is actually one of a common problem, not just in US, but in the world today. So, and your topic on mindfulness is very relevant because mindfulness actually helps us to keep our focus. But because today we are bombarded with so many negative news and that actually, even though if you're not depressed, by hearing all this information, you also become depressed. So the question is that, you know, if people who are under depression, how do they maintain their mindfulness? Because mindfulness is a state. You cannot for a lay person, it's so difficult to maintain that state all the time. So how do we make sure that we can maintain that state of mindfulness at all times, whether in a right state of mind or in a wrong state of mind?
Yeah. Well, we need to understand that, and if we are in the place that is not supportive, or in Bali we call it sapaya. If we are in the place that is not sapaya, and then it will be difficult. And there are two kinds of environments, negative and positive environment. If you stay in some place, you feel inspired, you feel supported. That environment is called supportive or good environment. On the contrary, wherever you are, and then you feel down, you feel depressed, or you feel distressed all the time, and that environment is not supportive. And if we can't change our environment, then we need to accept and understand, because we can't do anything with our environment. We need to accept, understand, and then look within ourselves and try to find something good about it. If there is nothing we like, we need to learn how to like what we have. Yeah, again, if we have nothing we like, we need to find what to like about it. Yeah, but if we can avoid, and we can avoid the negative or toxic environment, like a toxic people. If you stay with someone and then you feel down, you feel bad, you can avoid to associate with that person. So in one of the blessing, Mong Kala Sutta, not to associate with bad person, with bad friend. Asevana Japalana. Yeah, Asevana Japalana means not to associate with the bad companion. Yeah, if we can, but if we can't, we need to accept and look within ourselves, look at things we go, eventually we go away one day, because nothing will last forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ajahn. And maybe too late for you now. It's one o'clock already. And for the next Saturday, I invited one more Dixie for next Saturday. And Saturday 20, I invite the Ajahn Sona. Ajahn Sona is the Ajahn Chah disciple. He living in Canada. Anyone want to, want me to invite anybody to come and give a talk, please contact me, okay? And thank you very much for everyone to joining today. And Luang Paul is going to pay the Super Gem. Okay. Luang Paul นิมนต์ก็หลวงพ่อ
เดมิสวากาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสามิโยบัตติปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนะมามิ
Okay, now if you want, anyone want to join talking, maybe you can take, and we can discuss, and we can. I listen to anyone to give the negative or the positive, and for the next day, next time.
Today we have almost 60 people, 60 participants today. Okay, thank you very much, Ajahn BHATSAKORN.
Thank you. He already left. Okay.
Okay, thank you. See you next Saturday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. We are still going to put in a Facebook or YouTube. Yeah, you can. I just say it. Huh? I said. Oh, did it?